members who are joining remotely to turn off their cameras so that only elected members are on the screen. You should turn off your camera and microphone while you're speaking on an item, but please turn them back off again afterward. Could I please ask Democratic Services to mute everyone and begin the recording that was referred to in the published agenda? Okay, thank you, Mayor. Prynawn da, croeswi cyfarfod diochi chi gylandod. Welcome, good afternoon and welcome to today's Planning, Regulatory and Licensing Committee of Wednesday, 24th of May, 2023. Agenda item number 1, apologies for absence. Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Clive Jones.
Apologies for Scott Thomas.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Nobody else? Okay. Agenda item number 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal or prejudicial interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda in accordance with the provisions of Local Government and Finance Act 1992 relating to the Council Tax, Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and Members' Code of Conduct. Are there any members who wish to make a declaration of interest for any of the agenda items discussed today? Councillor John Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Agenda item number 5, licensing the Hackney carriage vehicle application. I'm currently a taxi driver, so therefore personal and prejudicial interest in this one.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor John Thomas. Any other members? Nope. Okay. Agenda item number 3. Former Ysgol Santos Tydfil School, Queen's Road, Tynoden, Merthyr Tydfil, to consider the report of the Chief Executive. I believe that David Cross, Group Leader of Development Control, will give us a summary of this report.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just set up a little PowerPoint to go with this report. The screens now. So the slides they're a bit delayed, so that'll come up in a second now. This application relates to the former Ysgol Santos Tydfil school site, which was demolished a number of years ago. So at present, the site largely comprises a large plateau, which is an elevated level above the adjoining Queen's Road, with a steep embankment along the western edge. Outline planning permission was previously granted back in 2008 by members, which established at the time the principle of developing the sites for residential purposes. All the matters relating to the layout, scale, appearance, access and landscaping were reserved at that time for future consideration. So this application is effectively seeking the approval of those reserved matters. The submitted details illustrate a row of 10 detached dwellings across the site, which would be set back from the main road. They would utilise the existing points of access into the site and would include a number of garages and parking areas to the rear of those properties. No objections were received as a result of the consultation exercise. However, one letter of objection was received following the publicity exercise. The concerns highlighted generally relate to the potential parking issues along Queen's Road and the potential amenity impact for the future residents, given its close proximity to the Cyfarthfa High School sports field. As set out in the report, the principle of development has already been established to be acceptable. The general layout, scale and appearance of development provides a suitable response to the pattern of development and the character of the surrounding area. The improvements to the existing access into the site would not present any significant highway safety concerns, and there would be adequate parking provided within the site itself. And a comprehensive landscaping scheme has been put forward, which would greatly improve the current quality of the site and would complement the sort of character, the wider character of the Thomastown Conservation Area. As such, it's recommended in the report that the application be approved, subject to the conditions set out on pages 12 and 13. So just to take you through the slides on the application site. So the red outline boundary, that essentially shows the extent of the application site. Slide. So this gives you an aerial view of the site as it stands now, and as you can see, that there's quite a bit of hardcore material across what was the original grounds of the school, and you can see two sort of lines across the bottom part there, which illustrate the 2 points of access into the site, which are going to be improved and widened to make suitable for the development. And you can see the sort of general existing trees, woodland areas and vegetation around the perimeter, which is to be retained as part of the development. And as you can see at the top of the picture there, this is the Cyfarthfa High School sports field, which I mentioned as one of the concerns. So this sort of gives you a general view of the arrangement across the site. So as you can see, there'll be 10 residential properties positioned in a row. They generally follow the pattern of development where the houses all front onto Queen's Road. Obviously, this was a particularly difficult site because of the steep embankment at the front. It meant the houses were set back quite a bit, but that's in itself is not out of character because some of the properties along that area have quite large front gardens as well. What you can see as well that across the site, the sort of the various green lines across the front boundaries. There's a number of trees to be replanted across the front embankment to try and strengthen that sort of avenue of trees, which is quite a feature along Queen's Road as well. And there's also a number of hedgerows in the rear garden areas to sort of provide sort of a more welcoming environment rather than sort of boundary fencing that you might normally find. And as I said earlier, across the back edge there's a number of double garages which will serve the residential properties along with parking spaces on hard standing areas. There are essentially two house types across the site. And this is essentially the design. So you've got I think they're both 4 bedrooms, but obviously the smaller one on the right includes some accommodation within the roof space. They're fairly similar in their design, and they sort of try and pick up some of the features that you see on some of the larger properties in the area. Next slide, if it comes up. Okay, so this is just a view of the site at the southern end, I suppose. So this is one of the existing entrances, and as you can see, there's quite a steep embankment with a number of trees at the moment. I think some of the trees are to be removed, which there's been quite a lot of self-seeded trees, so they're not particularly of significant amenity value. But obviously, there will be a more structured planting scheme provided. And this is just a view again from the northern side looking across the site, and as you can see there's a gated entrance there that's to be improved, and that would be the point of access again into the other point of access into the site. And then finally, just to give you a view across the site as it stands, as you can see there's not much there really. It's a lot of hardcore material that's just kind of been leveled across following the demolition of the school. And looking down from the site, that just gives you a bit of an appreciation of the sort of level differences to get into the site, hence why the houses were set back. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely, thank you, David. Do you have any questions from members? Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Could you explain, please, about the garages, exactly where they're going? Because reading the report, there are 9 garages, I think they're double garages, going to be put in a particular place, because apart from the one, the garages are elsewhere from where the houses are.
I've just gone back to the site layout plan there. So you'll see there's a garage there with a number 10 in the top right corner.
Oh yeah,
that's one of them. And then the blocks that you can see, so that's a block of like a pair of semi garages, and same there. So they're all lined across the back edge. So along that edge is an existing stone wall and railings, and then you've got the green buffer, which is the sort of existing mature trees and woodlands between the site and the school.
so basically that's the reason I asked the question. Basically, they're behind the actual houses,
Yes.
except for the one.
Yes.
Right, thanks for that. The two roads in and out, does it mean that the one road is for 5 properties in and out, and the other road is for 5 properties in and out? Or can all 10 occupants use either road?
Both access points are for 5 properties each. So what you'll see is in the middle of the site, there's a sort of a turning area provided for the vehicles on the one side, and there's actually a planted area and parking
Right.
provided in the sort of the link between the two areas. So there's no right of access from one side to the other site, to the other side of the site. That makes sense.
Right, that's fine. And one last question. I noticed that the name and address of the applicant store agent is Mr. Job Gutelin. I presume that he's an agent. Do we know what the particular building firm is going to be? Is it a local firm?
I don't know who the contractor would be to develop the site, or whether I understand at the moment that the applicant's intention is to develop the site. I can't think of the name of the developer now, but there's a builder that I met on site who's developed some housing near the school in Pant, and I think they may be looking to develop the site should permission be granted.
So as far as you know, they're subject to planning. They haven't appointed a contractor.
Not
yet.
that I'm aware of, no.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Clive. Councillor Malcolm Coburn.
Thank you, Chair. David, the green buffer behind the garage is that sufficient height to obstruct the view from the school playing field?
Yeah, it's quite considerable. I'll see if I can go back to the picture, which might give you an impression of it. So, not the closest of views, but as you can see, the land. It's gone up again. In the background there, across the back, that's the buffer. But this particular photo actually was taken probably about a year ago, actually. So when I was on site recently with the developer, that's actually a lot more dense than it was, as it is now.
Right, so it's shielded from the playing field.
Yeah, there's no way
Yeah.
you can see from the site, across into the school, and so I don't think the concerns they had about noise, affecting the amenity of residents, is that much of a concern.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Malcolm Coburn. Councillor John Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just the one on the entrance, Dave, if you can get the entrance where the 2 cars are parked outside. Because like I live just around the corner, I've never seen that used. I know it's going to be widened. Which way, do we know which way it's going to be widened? Because if it comes to Gorset Terrace, which is the one on the left, now in front of the white car, coming back, we got a bend there as well. So if, with the road coming out, then would there be sufficient visibility with the cars coming around that bend if they go in that way?
Yeah, so my understanding is that it'll sort of cut into the embankment, so there'll be a retaining wall along part of the boundary of the site. So show you here. So just along this edge, there's that would be the retaining wall. So my understanding is that the road would be widened a little bit on this side. So you've got I think a 5.5 meter wide at the entrance. So that allows for 2 cars to come in and out. And then there'll be a section further up where it's widened to create a passing bay on the left as you go up, and it's the same on the other access point. So the general width of the road won't be the same as like an adopted highway because it's a private road.
No, yeah.
But there will be sections of it widened then to allow for cars to pass when travelling along it.
You don't have that many cars really at any one time, would you?
Yeah, it's expected to be fairly minimal generally. Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah, thanks, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor John Thomas. Councillor Clive Jones.
Just to expand on that particular point, Councillor Thomas, because I think he has a particular point there. I know it's got the Gorset circle there, so there's a green area there, but it is on a bend. There's a lot of traffic going back and forth Queen's Road. A lot of them in and out of the school. So I know that the amount of vehicles going in and out there will be limited because there's 5 properties, but nevertheless, they'll have visitors and deliveries and postmen, etc., going up there. So as far as the highway is concerned, is it likely there'll be a sign warning that there's access and it, both ways coming out of there for vehicles?
I'm not, well, certainly as part of this application, it's not been proposed to put an access there. As part of the outline application, there was a highway assessment provided at the time, which looked at the, the amount of traffic in the area and the sort of the potential impacts of, in terms of traffic coming in and out of that site. And it was accepted at the time that, the development wasn't likely to give rise to highway safety concerns. If later on highways feel it necessary to put a traffic sign to warn people at the junction, you don't normally see that very often, but if they wanted to do that, then that would be in their gift to do so.
Frankly, I think is a consideration that it should be looked at. I mean, vehicles, will be continued to park there even when this development is there. It's too late. If an accident occurs, people will say, well, I wasn't aware. There was because from my recollection of it, that used to be pedestrian. It wasn't a road as such. So there'll be a new road there where there isn't one at the moment.
I'd like to think that when it's all finished, there'll be a slightly wider access point on both junctions. And at the moment, because obviously the site is vacant, people do park wherever along that stretch of the road. There's no formal junction provided in the pavement either. So I would imagine that if the development goes ahead, that those junctions, it would reduce some degree of parking on the street then, certainly where those junctions are. It wouldn't prevent people parking elsewhere, but there'll be obvious gaps then in that section to to see oncoming traffic.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor Michelle Jones.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just in relation to Cyfarthfa High School's concerns. Are they aware of the plan here? And has that alleviated the concerns? Because looking at their concerns, when I read the report, I thought, yeah, I can see where they're coming from. But now I've seen this, obviously I appreciate that like the garages, etc., will alleviate some of the noise. But have the school been made aware of this now to kind of put their minds at rest?
Yeah, the school were consulted as part of the application. There's always been an intention to have parking within the site itself anyway. I think the basis of their concerns were that they were concerned that people would start parking on the streets as a result of, or linked to the development. And that would, impact on, the drop off and pick up times, and to some extent, I think they mentioned the impact for staff as well, parking in the area. I mean, the school itself has its own car park for staff, which I would imagine is adequate. But in terms of the drop off pick up times, they could still do that along that stretch of it. Obviously, there'll be some reduction in that with the new junctions, but it doesn't seem to me that there will be any obvious impact to the school in terms of parking. As I say, there's at least a double garage for each property, and there's quite a number of parking spaces within the site. So there's more than enough to accommodate the residents within the sites without necessarily overspilling into the road.
Yeah, but looking at the concerns in your paragraph, it's more about the noise, the litter, the balls going into the gardens. So are they aware that the garages along that back border now is going to stop that? Has that alleviated their concerns?
Along that boundary, there's always been that planted buffer. That's not changed. That's outside of the application site. So that'll always provide a buffer between the park and the development. I assume they're aware of the garage arrangements and things like that. I don't think I don't think we could refuse the application on the grounds of noise and disturbance from the park in itself, particularly because we've already granted outline permission. and the site is also allocated for housing. So if there was any significant concerns, that would have likely affected the development of the site.
Yeah, it's just on the plan that we can see, it doesn't show where the garages are. That's what I was wondering, are they aware of where the
Oh.
garages are, so it's giving them that extra protection?
Yeah, so this plan is the landscaping plan, which I thought illustrated all the other elements to the scheme. There is I suppose you could say a more detailed site plan as well, where the garages are specifically highlighted as well.
And the
Yeah.
school has seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Michelle Jones. Any other members with questions? Okay, nobody's indicating. Any members with comments? Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I think there's been a few false dawns with this site in the past. I can remember one application, I believe, where they were talking about having 25 properties on this site some years ago. So I think this application with 10 four-bedroom properties is the right number on that site, particularly for the area as well. So I've got no issues with this receiving approval. It certainly, the school has been demolished there many years ago, and this, without a shadow of a doubt, will improve the whole area with this number of properties. And I hope at some time, probably has been removed, but the litter, etc., in front of that gate doesn't look very well, does it? Gone. Okay, thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor John Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just to reiterate what Councillor Jones has said, really, this has been batted back and forth for quite a number of years, and an unsightly area, really. When you're looking at Thomastown Park and whatever. And to be honest with you, I welcome this with open arms, and I will support the recommendation this evening. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor John Thomas. Any other members with comments? No. Okay. Nobody's indicating. Have we got someone to move the recommendation? Yeah. Councillor John Thomas, thank you very much. And a seconder? Councillor Clive Jones, thank you very much. I believe we're going to show raise hands on this for the vote. So if members just raise hands. 4. Okay. Thank you very much, Mayor. That's unanimous and carried. Okay. Agenda item number 4 is the information report only with the details of applications that have been dealt with under delegated powers. I'm going to skip to agenda item number 6 instead of going into a 101 and then coming back and going in. Agenda item 6 is any other business deemed urgent by the chair. I had none and I have none. So any officers, before we go back to agenda item number 5, if they want to leave, they can. Okay. Mike, you'd like to take a vote again?
John is leaving because he's declared an interest.
A vote on. We'll have a vote on the 101 section. Section 100. All in favour, please raise your hands. Unanimous. Thank you, Mike.